Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second half. Before we jump into this very terrifying interview, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this subscriber interview, shall we? All right, everybody. Today I have a subscriber who reached out a while ago to share encounters with me. Her name is Lori Ann. She has a couple of encounters in 2 different states, I believe. Lori Ann, how are you?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad that you finally got to come on. I'd love to just hear your encounters the way you tell it. So I think you have one that happened in Indiana, and then a couple of them in New Hampshire. So what we'll do is we'll go from the first one and work our way to present day. If we run out of time, and if you're willing to, you can come back and share whatever we didn't get to.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll do Indiana tonight, and we'll do New Hampshire, because both of them combined is probably going to take a while.
All right, perfect. All right, well, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, so this goes back to 2010. My husband and I, we were living out in Northern California, and we decided that we were going to move back out to New Hampshire. So we drove our Dodge Magnum with a U-Haul trailer hitched to it, with everything we owned inside that trailer. And we went more towards like the northern states, and then we ended up obviously in Indiana. But before we get there, I just got to share a little piece that is very important. My husband at the time loved to, he was kind of eccentric, and he liked to collect different things. And he ended up meeting an older gentleman who taught him how to cure beaver pelts. Just the skin and the fur of the beaver. Well, we had one from California, and of course he had to take it in the U-Haul, stinky, in the U-Haul with all of our stuff and our clothes and everything across country with us. So I don't know if you're familiar with curing skin, but I'm not sure about human skin. I'm not talking about that, but just the beaver skin, you have to put it in with a certain, I think it's iodized water and salt and whatever else. I can't remember what else is in there. But it's in a big Tupperware bin, and it does have the lid on it, but then he cut holes in the top to let it air out. So this thing is sloshing around in the U-Haul behind our car. So we hit Indiana. It was about I'd say not yet midnight, but getting close to midnight. I don't know if I'm saying the name of the place right, but I want to say Potato or Tomato Creek. I can't remember if it was Potato or something like that, but it was a state park. So we figured we were going to go crash there and then check it out the next morning. So we have 2 little boys at the time in the back seat, and so we pull in, and we see a vehicle flying out, and we didn't pay any mind to it. We just figured somebody was leaving, but they left kind of quick. And
not to cut you off, but it's
yep.
Potato Creek State Park. I just looked it up.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Thank you for that. Yeah, in South Bend, Indiana, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, well, we didn't really get to check out too much because of what happened. So, anyways, when we pulled in and parked, my husband, he was in a perfectly good mood, but when we were sitting there and he was literally just staring. You know, sometimes if somebody's tired, they just get this dead stare, this dead gaze. He was doing that out through the looking out through the windshield, but just like looking at the pavement, looking at nothing. And I'm like, "What's wrong with you?" He goes, "I don't know. I feel weird." Like, he goes, "Don't you feel weird?" I said, "What do you mean weird?" And he thought that, he said the only way to explain it is that feels like a bunch of people staring at him or watching him. And he's not that kind of person to express those kind of feelings. He's kind of a no bull crap kind of guy, straight to the point. So he wouldn't talk about anything like that normally. So him saying that gets me on edge a little bit because we're the only vehicle in this dark parking lot area, and there's nothing but woods and a little building. And you can tell there's water. You can see water far out. But anyways, I roll down my window. I figured maybe get some air in the car. And this stench filled the car. And when I mean stench, I mean like, I thought it was the pelt, to be honest with you, but it smelled like, the best way I could say it is the way a dog smells coming in from the rain, but with trash at the same time too. So I thought it was either the beaver pelt, or sometimes those parts, the trash cans can get overloaded and you can smell them a mile away. But the place looked pretty clean, and I didn't see any trash laying around anywhere besides. There was a trash can, but no trash anywhere near us. So my window is down, and Michael, my husband, looks out my window, and he asked me if I saw movement. And I told him I didn't see anything at all. I'm literally just looking nowhere, just looking around. I didn't see anything. And he's like, well, maybe I'm just freaking myself out. So he decides he's going to get out, go relieve himself, come back in, and we're going to get some sleep. He opens up the door, and then he comes running. Well, he gets out of the car, and then all of a sudden he comes running back into the car, slams the door, and he goes, roll up the window now. And I go, why? He goes, roll up the window now. There's somebody over there. Roll up the window now. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you don't get it. He goes, there's somebody over there, and they sound pissed. Roll up the window. We don't know where we're at. Well, we know where we're at, but we don't know who's around us. Like, he was afraid. And I'm like, what does it matter if there's somebody near us anyways? Like, he kind of going crazy on me. And I've never seen him like that ever out of almost 20 years now. But back then, I've known him for a long time, and I've never, ever, ever seen his behavior like this. So as soon as he gets in the car and tells me that, literally, while he's finishing his sentences, we felt a nudge. And it was enough that I don't know how to, okay, so when the trailer is attached to the car, if somebody wiggles the trailer, the car will feel, the car will get the end of that motion. And that's exactly what it felt like. So it didn't feel like somebody moved the car. It felt like it came from the trailer. And Michael and I are looking at each other, both confused, both scared, because now here we are thinking that somebody's messing with us. This one's harder. And I go, Michael, please, let's go. He goes, yeah, we're getting out of here. So he starts up the car. He puts it in drive. And he's backing up because we're pulled in straight. Well, not all the way in straight, but mainly straight. So he's backing up. And then as he's backing up, we all of a sudden, we're getting shook like you wouldn't believe, because the trailer's shaking. You can see the trailer moving. And then in the rear view, he said he saw ears. And then almost like the top of a dog's head. That's exactly what he told me. That's exactly what he told the police officer and everybody else we spoke to. I'm getting a little shaky. I'm sorry. But,
it's okay. Take your time. When he told me that there were ears and the dog ears, and he's saying this, and it happened so fast and so quick. He was backing up, and then, like I said, it was shaking violently, and then it sounded like somebody was ripping open metal or aluminum, just like that high-pitched scrape noise, and it was so loud, and there was so much movement. And Michael has it in drive by now, and then he's trying to take off, and he's not speeding, obviously, but he puts a little bit on the gas pedal, and I'm like, go, go, go. He's like, I'm going. But he's like, it's like we have more weight. And then all of a sudden, when he tries to hit harder, then you can feel the vehicle just release, like something went off of the vehicle. And all we saw was darkness go right back into the woods. And Michael ended up getting, I can't remember which highway it was, but getting back onto the highway. And on the way to the highway, we're trying to figure out what the hell it was, but we weren't going to stay there. So we got onto the highway, and we ended up pulling over somewhere else. We called the police, and we're looking at our U-Haul. There is so many,
where there was so many, the only way to describe it, claw marks. I mean, and some blood, and whatever it was, which we know now what it was, ripped the U-Haul open like it was a can of sardines, like it was nothing. That was the metal that we were hearing, and all that tugging, all of that shaking was from that. And now piecing it all together, we think he smelt, or she smelt, the beaver pelt. And it was going after an easy source. So we call the police, a sheriff shows up. And Michael told him exactly what he saw. With the ears on top of, like, the dog head, like we were talking about earlier with German Shepherds. It's basically a German Shepherd head. He would guess, he said, with how the ears sit up top. Just, I guess, between like a German Shepherd and like a horse in a way, you know, because they're directly on the top there.
Right.
And they go straight up. But he said the size of the ears and what he saw on top of the head, and obviously what we were feeling, this thing had to have been enormous or weighed more than we could imagine. We're talking to the sheriff. He's taking pictures, and he said that they've been having issues with the bear in the area, and he's going to call somebody that will take care of us. And here I am freaking out. I'm like, I want answers. I want to know what this thing was, and, you know, what do we do? And, you know, are things completely destroyed? And, and go find it. Like, come on. If it's doing it to us, it could possibly hurt somebody, like, tremendously. But he told us to sit tight, and within, I'd say, an hour, SUVs come in, and all black. They were dressed very nicely, and two of them walk over to Michael and I. One goes with me, and one goes to Michael. And the questions that I'm asked were basically, what did you see? What did you hear? What do you think you saw? What do you think you heard? And the number one question, did you take any pictures? And he asked if he could see my phone. And I showed him my phone, and then a few minutes later I see Michael giving his phone to the other guy. And they're going through our phones. They meet up together. And I asked Michael what he talked about, and he told me what they spoke about. It was basically the same things, asked a bunch of questions, but then re-asked the questions again, but in a different way. And then the guy comes back, and, not to mention that some of our stuff is literally, like, destroyed in there, too, because we had everything we owned inside this trailer. When I mean everything, I mean everything we had as a family going across country to move back. So when the guy came over to us, he handed Michael his phone. They said that they needed to keep my phone for evidence. And I said, but I didn't take any pictures. And he said he needed it because that was the phone that we used to call for help. So they took my phone, and then they said that they'll put us up in a hotel, but they're going to need the car and they're going to need the trailer. And I said, but for what? This is our stuff. And they said that they're confiscating everything for evidence. And they told me not to worry, that it was just a rogue bear and everything's going to be fine. And I said, if it's just a rogue bear, why are you taking everything that we own? I mean, I'm talking our kitchen table, a microwave, well, not the beds. We left the beds behind. Well, we had a toddler bed in the crib in there. But, I mean, everything, our TVs, plates, knickknacks, our safe with Social Security cards, birth certificates, marriage certificate in there. I mean, everything. I mean, everything that makes up a home, besides the beds, was in the U-Haul and in our car.
Right.
And they took it. They took everything. And they told us that they'll be in touch, and if we have any questions, to call them. And they told us that there was nothing but a bear, and so we're... Oh, hold on, this car goes by. Oh. So we are at this hotel, and I'm thinking to myself, he said, if I have any questions, here's the number. Like, no number. Like, why didn't we get a number? And no card, no information whatsoever. So how are we going to contact them? Like, what are we supposed to do? He told us that to contact us if we have any questions. So how are we going to do that? All these things are going through my head, and thinking to myself, a bear? No way. I don't think a bear could do something like that. How could that happen? And if there was a bear, I highly doubt it's going to jump on the back of a U-Haul and try and rip it open. And the ears, from what my husband was describing, I've never seen a bear with German Shepherd or horse, like between German Shepherd and horse ears.
Right. Now, really quick, did you see the ears yourself too?
No.
Okay. Because a lot of people, actually one person that I talked to, he described the ears like German Shepherd, but large, like a rabbit's, and how they stuck up, but still like a dog's ear.
Yes.
Okay.
It's got that thickness to it.
Yep.
Like, you know how at the tip of the dog's ear, it's almost like puffy in a way.
Yep.
It's got all that tissue or cartilage right there, and that's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, from what he said, that's putting a German Shepherd and the horse ears together and seeing the average pictures of what we call a Dogman. Yeah, it matches 100%. The character matches 100%. And to top this story off, we got a check from the Treasury. Sorry. We ended up getting a check from the Treasury for close to $20,000. There was nothing else attached to the check. There was nothing else that we heard from them. I mean, literally nothing else. It was just boom, done. That was it.
So you never got your kitchen table, your microwave, all your worldly possessions.
They took everything.
And what happened after the night? So they bring you to this hotel.
Yep.
What then?
So we called my mom from the hotel. We only had one phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm freaking out, panicking, literally just completely upset. And Michael's talking to me. And before we got there, because he had a little bit of a conversation with them, they did say that, don't worry, we'll set everything up. We'll take care of you. We'll get you a car home. Or do you want to fly home? And I said, I'm not flying anywhere, but I just want to go to my mom's house. I just want to be with my mom. I want to get my kids out of here. I just want to go. I don't know where I'm at. Well, I knew where I was at, but I'm not familiar with the area. I just want to get out of there. Everything that happened, I mean, it was almost like a nightmare. I mean, it was just, it was crazy. I mean, something like that happening, you would never think that something like that would happen. And it did. And there's only one way to explain it, and that's exactly of what happened. And you know, whether people believe you or not, and that's the hardest part about it, to be honest with you. But, well, you know yourself as having an encounter yourself, you know, people are going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know? And so explaining to my mom what happened, you know, and telling her that they told us it was a bear. My mom, you know, from living in New England, a bear wouldn't do that.
Right.
That doesn't sound like a bear. And, you know, just all the characteristics, it doesn't add up. So anyways, they brought us to the hotel. They got us a car, well, a rental, that brought us from Indiana to Pennsylvania. And we were at a Holiday Inn. I can't remember where in Pennsylvania. I was so distraught. And my mother's husband drove from New Hampshire to Pennsylvania and picked us up and drove us back. They have a van, so they picked us up. But like I said, we ended up getting a check. The check basically covered our car. And I'm assuming they think that it covered everything else that was in there. But you don't put a price on sentimental things and things that meant a lot to you and things you've been collecting and
right.
Your Christmas ornaments and things like that. I mean, they took it. They took my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why? Why do you need? And I tried begging and pleading with them. I'm like, I'll take everything out. You can have the U-Haul. You can have the car. I want my stuff, please. Or I'll wait here. We won't leave. You know, even if it takes you, 10 days, we don't mind hanging out. Just please give me my stuff. That's all I want. And they kept saying that they needed it for evidence. And there was no begging. There was no pleading. No changing their mind whatsoever. And that was that. They took our stuff. I mean, we were allowed to take everything that was inside the car, our personal belongings and the diaper bag and the kids' car seats and the stroller and things like that. But we gave them everything. They said it was for evidence.
So what they deemed necessary for you to get by for the next couple of days, they said, take that. But
they left us high and dry.
I mean, that's insane. That is insane.
Yep. And no number to call, no nothing. I didn't even get a card from the sheriff that showed up first, which I thought it was weird that a sheriff showed up on scene. I mean, well, in my area, when you call for help, a police officer, a regular uniformed police officer normally shows up to a call. And then, from there on out, he calls other services that he needs it. But when I was telling 911 what happened and where I was, that, they sent a sheriff. One little sheriff. And then he goes and makes a call to whoever these guys are, which we all know who they are now.
Yeah.
But, and it's crazy. They think that they can just take everything that belongs to somebody, and to them, it's just like a piece of paper. It's their quote unquote evidence. And, they probably just junked everything after, and why, I just didn't understand why we couldn't get our stuff back. Like where they were obviously probably swabbing for DNA, this and that, yada, yada, yada. But like I said, why couldn't I have my things that were inside? A couple things got destroyed, but, not everything. But, yeah, so that was an Indiana encounter.
That is mind-blowing. This is pretty much the first time, you and I have spoke 2 or 3 times in regards to New Hampshire and a couple of other little things. But that's mind-blowing.
It's crazy.
And just like you said, the sheriff, you're at a state park, so you'd either think like an NCON officer or DEC, or a state trooper at least,
It happened at the state park, but we got on the highway and moved away.
Okay.
But still, the scene of it was at a state park. But you are absolutely right. Like a state trooper, or somebody else
on the highway, you'd think, okay, sheriffs are county, state is, Then when I looked up Potato Creek State Park, I was looking, and then I looked up Bear in Indiana. They say on the internet that bears in Indiana are in the southern zone of Indiana, which where you had this encounter is nowhere near the southern zone. First of all, how is a bear, like you said, a bear is not going to tear a U-Haul. It's a black bear live in Indiana. Their claws are designed for digging, not tearing.
Exactly. Yeah. And for berries and for fish and things like that.
How big was the hole in the trailer? Like how big?
Holes, you mean?
Holes,
there were okay.
Could a person physically, like let's say, could a person or a large man or thing get into the trailer through these holes?
Human being could not. Well, a large human being could not get through the hole, but a toddler could get through one of the holes. Okay,
all right. Because I was thinking if the holes were huge, maybe
there were four. There were 4. I call them rips or tears.
Okay.
So there was one on like the left side part of it, like in towards the back, and then the other 3 were on the top, like where the top part, but where like at the very end where it would open. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like at the top back area. But there were three big areas, but one of those big areas you could, if a 2-year-old were sitting up there, he could fall through.
Okay.
It was huge. I mean, it pulled it back. Like, you don't realize how thin these things are until you see something like this.
Right. It was
and I think it's aluminum.
Yeah, it probably peeled it like a tin can.
Like an orange.
Yeah,
Yeah.
On top of, a Dodge Magnum is got a rather large engine in them. It's not like a little car. It's a heavy vehicle. You got a trailer full of your worldly possessions, which is a lot of weight.
Yep.
Whatever this thing, there was some great amount of strength. One bear could not pull or hold, a trailer and a Dodge Magnum going forward, back, that's insane.
I mean, it was the feeling of when it was released, that gave us the realization of how strong this thing was.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because at the release, it was just boom, we took right off. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, I couldn't believe, because Michael's like, I'm giving it some, and obviously not all the way to the ground, to the floor, but still trying to give us some to get going. And we're going like centimeters or inches at a time.
Right.
And we're not going anywhere. We're not making any progress. Then all of a sudden, there we go. We're gone. And by the way, we had the Hemi in that car.
Yeah, I was because then there's a lot of power right there. So,
and it was only 3 months old too. The car. Yeah. So he was a little upset over that one.
I can imagine.
But
what was the demeanor of the? I'm sorry. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, you can go.
What was the demeanor of the sheriff when he first came? What was his attitude like?
At first, he was. You know what was weird about him? Michael even brought that up. He said you would have thought it was his birthday. Because when he first showed up, he was all right. And then as we're talking to him, but he just, not passing jokes, but just making light of the situation and
right.
Floaty, airy, like it's happened before. I couldn't believe it.
No astonishment.
Like nothing.
Not because if you or I or anybody else came across this, we'd be like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, like I'm sorry that this happened to you, and this and that. But my goodness, it was like just like a fun game for him, or an exploration or something, but like I said, you can tell he was familiar with this kind of scenario.
Right. It wasn't his first rodeo there.
He knew who to call.
Now, how were their demeanors when were they kind of like pushy, rude?
Yes, they were very pushy at first.
Okay.
And then when they took Michael and I, when we separated and I spoke to one and he spoke to another gentleman, and then there were 5 other ones at the other vehicles, I did not speak to any other ones besides the 2 that came up to us. Mm-hmm. But Michael spoke to those 2 and the other guys. Because they were explaining things to him a little bit, and I was still talking to the one that was talking to me when I was trying to beg and plead about getting my stuff, our stuff back. But anyways, no, they were very pushy, with the questions, almost snooty when they kept circling around the questions again and asking the same questions but in a different way. Mm-hmm. And when I asked why he was asking me the same questions, he said, I just need to make sure that we have everything that we need. And I said, but I'm telling you, so you don't need to ask me again. I already said it. Right. I was very upset. But the one that I was speaking to, he, like I said, pushy at first, and then he was kind of okay. But the one that took Michael aside, he was very, very snobby, very
matter of
fact.
Okay.
And yeah.
Now there was because your two kids were in the car. No compassion about that. No, just matter of fact.
No.
Right to business. Get this done. Get you out of here and shut up.
The sheriff was hanging out with the kids when they spoke to us, but one was still asleep in the car at first. Well, when everything happened, like when we first got there, they were both asleep. And then, so there's Silas, he's the younger one, but he was really little. He wasn't even a year old at that time. And then there's Eli, he was 3 at that time. So Eli woke up when Michael and I were talking, and he was asking a couple of questions of when Michael was acting not crazy, but just out of the norm.
Right.
And then Eli kind of simmered down and kind of in and out. But to be honest with you, I was more concerned about protecting my children and more looking out the windows and looking all around. And sure, I looked back a couple of times, but I knew that they were safe. I knew that they were there with me, so I was more concerned about what was going on outside of the car.
Right.
Michael, too. But then when the sheriff showed up, he hung out with them so we could talk to, as we call them, the MIB.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's, wow. I really...
It's crazy.
I'm at loss of words on this because, you'd at least expect to get your worldly possessions back or some sort of...
Or some kind of catch-up or them to contact us. Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing. We got a check, though. We knew exactly who it came from.
Yep.
But it was basically stay quiet and stay over there kind of thing,
Okay.
And which is sad. It's sad because something like that happening, I can't say it ruins your life, but it changes your life. It changes the way you think.
Yeah.
It changes of how you look at things. Even to the point of it changes your religious views in a way.
Yeah, it gives you a whole new perspective of life and what you thought you knew.
Exactly. And we'll get into the other encounters another night.
We're coming up on time right now. But I wanted to ask you one last question.
Yep.
We got about 4 or 5 more minutes. When you guys got to Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, and was there any contact after that? How did they know where to get the check to? Did you give them your parents' address or what?
I left my mom's address on a piece of paper that I filled out with all my information.
Okay.
With the sheriff. Because I was hoping that we could get everything back and everything sent back because that's where, that's where we were going to go anyways. We were going to stay with my mom until we ended up closing on the house. So I was hoping that we were going to get stuff back. I mean, months of waiting for our stuff, never knowing if something was going to get sent back or whatnot, but
yeah,
we'll never see it again. It's been years.
Unfortunately, no. And that's just it. Like we both just said, it's a whole new perspective on life, on what to think of, like you said, religion, the government. I mean, everything, because
they knew what it was.
Yeah,
the sheriff knew what it was.
Absolutely.
I mean, and after having what we have around here, they're everywhere.
Oh,
I mean, how can they not be? Yeah. It's just they're here. They're a part of our planet. They're a part of our land, and now we just have to coexist. I mean, there's people out there that want to hunt them and want to find them or do this or that. But it's like, okay, they're here. We don't need to mess with them.
Right.
We don't need to, go out and pin it on City Hall to prove that they're here.
Right.
We already have enough proof. I mean,
the way I look
for God's sakes, the government knows that they're here.
Yeah, the way I look at it is they've been here before we were.
Absolutely.
And they had to learn how to exist with us. Now it's our turn to learn how to exist with them.
Oh, I totally agree.
Unfortunately, they are the apex predator, and that's where I think a lot of everybody's concern or whatever is that we are not the apex person or species anymore. It's that there's something out there that actually is almost as smart as us, possibly just as, and stronger than us. So.
Oh, by far. And people are sitting here saying, well, why all of a sudden everything's coming out? Why is everybody saying things now about them? 2 reasons. One, we're overpopulated and we're digging into nature's territory with all the growth we have in America and everywhere else too. Yep. So we're digging into their land. We're digging into nature's land, and we're putting in concrete jungles.
Yeah.
So of course we're spreading out now as humans. Of course we're going to run into something somewhere along the line. And the other reason, I almost got hit by a car. I lost my train of thought, Jeff.
Oh, that's right. We are actually coming up on, I got a couple more, like about a minute more.
Actually, do you want to just edit it out from
no,
when
I can't.
You asked your question?
No, this is fine. We're good. Don't worry about it. Is there anything that I want to have you come back? So after I stop recording, we'll plan on when you're going to come back. Is there anything that you'd like to say to everybody before we end the recording?
Oh, I just want to say, if you have an encounter, don't feel forced to talk about it unless you're ready. I wasn't ready for the longest time. One, I had to convince myself of what it was. You have to understand that it's an animal. It's here. So we have to accept it.
All right, guys, really quick. That last bit is her theory, her belief, her idea on what these are. We don't know if they're animals. We don't know anything other than what we have heard from people, what other people's ideas and theories are. Yes, we've heard from Victor, and Victor has told us these things are this and that. But once again, Victor was not a scientist. He was a hunter. And until we have one of these creatures on an autopsy table or a necropsy table, and we know exactly what they are, I will not say they are animal. I will not say they are demonic. I will not say one way or another. I know that there has been reports of them bleeding and dying. I know there's been reports of them traveling through portals and having absurd amounts of strength and abilities to leap and this and that. So that's how I look at it. I just take all the information and compile it. And once we have that, what I said, a Dogman or a Bigfoot, heck, even all of them, let's, but not maliciously. Like if we could find a Bigfoot that had perished in the woods, and then do a necropsy on it, or a Dogman, I don't think we should go out and hunt these creatures unless they intrude on our property, hurt our livestock, hurt our family. But these are my ideas and my theories. Other people may have a different whole kind of view and want to hunt these things. Would I? No, I wouldn't, unless it hurt me or my family. That's the only way I would ever go out and hunt one of these things down. So with that being said, thank you for supporting the channel. Your support is honestly what makes this channel continue to grow and go, and what makes it a special place for people to share their experiences without ridicule, without any kind of just judgment. It's a place of respect, and it is appreciated. And for those of you that have commented, I've seen some people comment on Robert Sharp with Rascal negatively. Don't bother commenting negatively, because that's not what the channel is based on. You don't have to say this guy's, whacked out of his mind. Just say, I'm having a hard time buying it. That's the way I look at it. And I think that by doing that, showing the simple respect, it helps the community strengthen. So with that, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for truth, and God bless.